Buddy, we're going to shortly go through the answers for our Daily Quest 3 on functions and graphing functions. Just like before, there are two major problems, two on the front and then two on the back, whereas the two on the front are the same problem, two on the back are the same problem. So we should be getting the same answer a few times. For the first one is we learned to graph functions using a table. Now the good news on this problem is that there is no fraction involved. Therefore, when we're making our table, we only have one possibility that we are likely to use, which is x values of -2, -1, 0, 1, and 2. From here, we simply plug in our x into the original equation. So I would get something like y equals 4 times -2 minus 1 more. Well, this is -8. Minus 1 more gives me -9. The next step would be simply continuing the process. 4 times -1 minus 1 more, which gives me -5. The third one could be 4 times 0, which is 0 minus 1, or -1. From here, I can probably start to see the pattern, which I am increasing by 4, which makes sense because our slope is 4, and we should be increasing by 4 units every time. Sorry, this should be 3 and 7. From here, we can go to the side, and we can graph. Now, I'm going to have to count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. First point. -1 and 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. 0 and -1. 1 and 3. And finally 2 and 7. Right there. Now, the ultimate mystery. Can Mr. Schmidt draw a straight line with his ruler on here? And look at that. Success. So, we have just successfully graphed a line by making a table. That's going to show up on the quiz and test a lot. Let's do that problem using the graphing shortcut, which is y equals mx plus b. And I'm hoping you're saying it with rhythm or even doing the hand motions. I'd be so proud of you. Our equation was y equals 4x minus 1. And like I talked about in class, this is kind of the 8th grade dream here because you're able to graph the line correctly in the fastest possible way. That's all this is a nice shortcut. So if I'm looking for the slope, which we call m, this would be 4. But we want fractions. For the first time in your life, fractions are actually substantially easier than decimals. So we want to write this as the fraction 4 over 1. Now you could write it as 4. Much easier to deal with it as 4 over 1. Now the y-intercept is going to be the b value, or the beginning value. In this case, it is -1. I had a lot of students who didn't write out this second step right here, and they end up graphing over here instead of graphing right there for our b value, and that ends up messing up your problem completely. So from here, I can go up 4 and over 1, up 4 and over 1 again. I could do it a third time if I really wanted to. I could go down 4 and back 1, down 4 and back 1 again. This actually gives us the exact same line that we had in the last problem, and it should, if we did our steps correctly. And Mr. Schmidt even drew another nice line. Make sure to include your arrows on the end because these lines go on forever. So, graph the line using the table. Graph the line using the shortcut. Let's move to the back page. In this unit, we learned to graph functions using a table, but now the function is substantially more difficult. We still want to make our table of -2, -1, 0, 1, and 2 for our x value. But when we plug this in for x, it doesn't give us nearly the same level of answer that we had before. Okay, from here, we're going to have to solve our equation. We could add 4 to both sides. This is gone because it's equal to 0. I get negative 4y equals 0, which is fine. And I can divide by negative 4 on both sides to get y is equal to 0. Goes here at the top. We can do that again, except this time we're going to do 2 times negative 1, which is negative 2 minus 4y equals negative 4. Once again, we can draw our line down our equal sign. We can add 2 to both sides. From here, we're going to divide by negative 4. So I get 1y equals, this is equal to a positive 1/2, or you can write it as the decimal 5/10. I think a half is easier, though, to deal with in this problem. Now, what we end up getting, you can pause the video and work the rest of these out. What we end up getting, though, is we're going up by a half each time. Now, this one you can write as 3/2 or 1 and 1/2, both of which are just fine. And then finally here, we're going to get the answer of 2. When we graph, we're going to have points that are really close to each other, which is fine. It's going to look like that. When we graph our line, we have to be careful, though. Wow, that was my best one right there. Okay, we made our table, we graphed our line. However, on problems like this, we would really like to be able to have a nice graphing shortcut to be able to graph it faster. Well, in order to do the graphing shortcut, we need y is equal to mx plus b, and right now we don't have y is equal to anything. So we're going to draw our line down our equal sign, hopefully a much better line than that. And we have to get the x's away from the y. So we're going to subtract 2 x's from both sides. Very common mistake right here is we have boys and girls at the dance. If Mr. Schmidt is chaperoning, there's no touching. So we're going to put this number, and it can stand next to that number, but we are not going to do any combining. So it's not negative 2 or positive 2, anything like that. It's going to be the negative 2 x's and then the negative 4's just standing next to each other. Now we have to get rid of the thing that's in front of the y, which is negative 4. Divide everything by negative 4. And we get y is equal to, now this you could leave however you wanted, but I think it's easiest to write it as the simplified fraction, 1/2. And negative 4 divided by negative 4 is positive 1. From here, we now have y equals mx plus b form. We find our slope and our y-intercept, and we can graph with a nice shortcut. So now instead of going up a half, we're going to go up 1 and over 2. Up 1 and over 2. Up 1 and over 2. We could do this as much as we wanted. We could also go down 1 and back 2. We could do that as much as we wanted. Since Mr. Schmidt is not very good at drawing lines, he likes to fill out as many of those ordered pairs as possible. And there I go. I graphed my line. And I am done. Now, tomorrow's Daily Quest does not have an answer key attached to it. You're going to be graded on your ability to answer those questions on your own. And that means if you do not have them done when you walk into class, you're getting a 0. As always, if you have any questions,